Welcome to the newest episode of Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. I'm your host, Jason Fraley, picking the brains of the top filmmakers, musicians, and artists of our time. Cinco Paul wrote Schmigadoon and Despicable Me, while Bekah Brunstetter wrote for This Is Us. Now they come together at Olney Theatre in Olney, Maryland for the new biblical musical AD 16, about a teenage Mary Magdalene falling in love with Jesus.
Hi, I'm Cinco Paul. I'm the composer of the songs for AD 16.
And I'm Bekah Brunstetter, and I'm the book writer, sometimes called librettist, which just means I write the scenes.
Yes, and you both, your reputations are amazing. In Cinco Paul, you Despicable Me and Schmigadoon, which was a big hit over the summer, and then Bekah, of course, writing for This Is Us, and so the combo of you two is something everyone's going to want to see here at Olney Theatre Center. It's called AD 16, as in, the year of 16 after the birth of Christ. Explain the general premise here, because it's a really cool one with Mary Magdalene.
This all started in the mind of Cinco's beautiful mind. So I think you should take that one.
All right. How did this come to your beautiful mind? What was the genesis? Pun not intended.
Yeah. Well, AD 16 is the story of teenage Mary Magdalene moving to Nazareth next door to a family of carpenters and their son Jesus, and she develops a crush on him and pursues him and learns a valuable lesson about love. So it's teenage Mary Magdalene crushing on teenage Jesus.
It's a really clever idea, and we've seen something. I mean, Scorsese kind of dealt with it, and Dan Brown kind of went there in the books. But I mean, talk about how it's still kind of an edgy little concept.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say Bekah can speak to this too, but I don't think of it as edgy, but because I don't think I have an edgy bone in my body, but it is a fun topic to explore, right? It's these missing years from Jesus's life in the Bible. And we're just sort of saying, what would have happened if a girl had a crush on him? And we're certainly not going, the Last Temptation of Christ route or anything like that with this show. And I think it is for people who believe or people who don't believe. We're not out to push the envelope or to take pot shots at religion here.
Kind of like Jesus Christ Superstar. Anybody can enjoy that one.
Right. Or Godspell. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. All right, cool. So it was your brainchild, Cinco. So you do the music and lyrics. But Bekah, I know. So you're brought in to do the book. How does this happen? So Cinco's like, I have this great idea, and Bekah, I need you to write, the quote unquote scripted parts in between the songs here. How does he recruit you?
Yeah. So he the way the story goes is that he had kind of started to conceive of it, write a few songs, write a few scenes, and the main character is a young woman, and so he kind of thought to himself, perhaps I should find a woman to collaborate on this with, and I'm thankful that he had that epiphany, and I think he just asked a friend to recommend a few playwrights, and he read a play of mine and then sent me an email out of nowhere. He actually just found the email from like 6 years ago, which is awesome. And so he sends me this email. I had just seen his movie Secret Life of Pets, which I loved. So I was excited to talk to him. But even more than that, I had just worked on some plays about Jesus as a teenager for this this acting school for young people out here in LA. So my brain was already there. So it really felt like, it was one of those emails that felt like, divine intervention, sort of like, oh, Bekah, you need to work on this. So he had an upcoming kind of concert out here in LA of a couple of songs as a part of this festival called Musical out here. So I went to see it and was immediately, hooked and felt like I had to work on it. And then we, between the two of us, just kind of like built it together over the last 6 years through a variety of workshops and readings and, some incredible development opportunities that we've been given to just sit in a room and talk about it and figure out the best way to tell the story.
Very cool. And one more for you, Becca, really quick about the story, the book itself, because then Cinco, I'll bounce back to you for the music. I want to talk about some of the songs too. But real quick, Becca, I know, why does she find that it's easy to get him to fall, and then also maybe harder in certain ways?
Oh man, well, I think that is the experience, the universal experience of being 16 and getting a crush on somebody. At first, it does feel so easy because your feelings come so easily. You're overcome, you're overtaken by your feelings. Sometimes your feelings don't even really include the other person. You're just like in love with that feeling of being in love, and you're in love with the poems that you're writing for them and all of that. But then of course she's in love with Jesus. He's not just any other kid. And he's not really, on this earth to find himself a girlfriend. He hasn't quite found his path yet. He hasn't quite realized his ultimate calling. But the way that we've conceived him is that he does kind of have a sense that there's something up with his life. There's something up with his purpose on earth. So he's like the ultimate unattainable dude.
Yeah, right. I think it's easy
he's also very charming and wonderful and easy to crush on because he's kind, and he's kind of like wise beyond his years, and sort of like into everyone loving each other, and into justice and equality and things that Mary loves. So yeah, easy to crush on.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get Jesus to love you, but not easy to get him to love you the way that you want. if you're crushing on him.
Yeah.
Right. And to your point earlier, it's so fascinating because it's in that giant gap of years. But, everyone knows the, Christmas nativity story, and then everyone knows the gospel, when he's in his 30s or whatever, and the death and crucifixion. But you zero in on that era of young, puppy love, teenage love as a young carpenter, and Mary as a young, well, I actually, I don't know. How do I even say this? It hasn't gone into the prostitute life at this point, or I guess.
Ooh, Cinco, would you like to talk
or is that
about
a spoiler alert?
Controversial topic?
No, that's fake news. Actually,
yeah,
she was not a prostitute, and she was misidentified as the woman taken in adultery by one of the popes in like the 16th century, and it stuck ever since.
Isn't that wild how that happened?
The reality is fake news she was just a kind of a disciple,
right?
Like a friend of Jesus's. There's a lot of women in the Bible. This is such a common thing. Sure. That were very important people in Jesus's life that either get, misremembered, mislabeled, or not talked about at all, so
well, we gotta remember it's been written by men for many years. So imagine dating all the way back to those Adam and Eve stories. Who gets painted as the villains throughout this thing? It's pretty disturbing, if you ask me.
Yeah, that's why I thought a man shouldn't write this one.
Right.
this musical.
I'm glad that you're holding up Mary Magdalene and, undoing all of those, misconceptions.
We're hoping.
Yeah, exactly. And putting a young woman at the center of a biblical story is just like thrilling to me.
I love it.
And one of the main reasons I said yes before I'd even read or seen anything, It's just such an exciting opportunity.
Very, very, very cool. Well, yeah, so that's the book and a lot of the deep themes we're dealing with here. Let's go back into the music, Cinco. So remind us what are some of the standout production, musical numbers that we're going to hear here? I obviously it's a new play, so it's not like people will know them by title, but give us a teaser of, 2 or 3 of the big numbers.
Yeah, I think even though people obviously don't know the songs, they'll know the influences. I decided very early on that I wanted to pay homage to one of my favorite times in music, which is 80s and 90s R&B. It just felt right for this show. I think because Mary is young, and also the tie to gospel music, that is in R&B. So there's a lot of TLC and En Vogue and Prince and Tony, and all those yeah, exactly. All those sort of sounds you'll, Janet Jackson, you'll find in the show. And like there's a song that there's these three sort of Nazarene girls who warn Mary away from Jesus with a song called That Boy, which is very much you know, an En Vogue song. It's very much, you know, never gonna get it, my lovin'. And it's in that vibe. And then there's a fantasy sequence in which Mary imagines Jesus crooning to her, and it's very much as if he were Prince. You know, it's a sort of a classic R&B ballad, and so there's a lot of songs where we have just sort of a lot of fun playing with that genre and juxtaposing it up against, you know, these biblical tropes that we're so familiar with. At least even people who don't read the Bible, I think, are familiar with the basics of the story and the world. So we have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, all of these icons and themes are, and it's pretty ubiquitous either. Yeah, exactly. Even if you're of another religion or no religion, you know some of these main plot points in the story, at least.
Yeah.
Thanks for running me through the music, and I love that, you know, it's R&B. That's fantastic. That's stuff I grew up on. So it'd be cool to apply that, you know, Boys to Men and Vogue sound to this era. Cool. Well, tell me who's playing our Mary and our Jesus? Who are the stars?
So Mary Magdalene is played by this young woman named Phoenix Best, who is incredible. Has an amazing voice. She is got great comedic skills. She did Les Mis, she did The Color Purple, she did Dear Evan Hansen, and then Jesus is played by Ben Fankhauser, who's another Broadway staple, who's just amazing. He's literally the perfect Jesus, because he's this nice Jewish boy who sings R&B like crazy. And so he's perfect for our show. He's been in Newsies, and, you know, I think he was also in Beautiful, the Carole King musical. He's done a lot of stuff. We've got an incredible cast.
It sounds freaking great. And then I guess sort of before we run, the other element of this we haven't discussed is sort of visually what we see. I know we're a radio station, so try to paint a visual with your words if you can, but what do we see in terms of, you know, set design, you know, like period, you know, biblical era costumes, or what do we see visually?
So Cinco should answer this because I'm back in LA right now. I'm coming back tomorrow, but what I've seen, they've been sending me little sneak pictures, and what I saw of the designs when I was there and what I've seen in these pictures, it's quite stunning because it honors the time period and is very grounded in the time period, but there's also color and life, which just makes it feel a little bit contemporary and really sets the stage for our tone. And it's just like vibrant and fun. Does that feel right, Cinco? You tell me. You've been sitting in the theater for millions of years now.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly it. And I think that's important for the comedy to play. You have to feel like you're really there, but also it's very colorful and has a contemporary vibe to it. But the set is amazing. There's a giant turntable. It spins around. It's all this old, you know, buildings and homes made of rock, and it looks as good as every other aspect of it, as good as it sounds, et cetera, et cetera.
Any stained glass? I know I see stained glass in the logo.
Yeah, stained glass. I don't think was a thing in AD 16.
Yeah.
So
not yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
I want to give a shout out to our choreographer, Katie Spellman, who is basically just like making your favorite music video for every number of this show. The choreography is so delicious and so fun. And yeah, she just worked on Moulin Rouge on Broadway, so she knows what she's doing.
Yeah, and our director, Stephen Brackett, you know, who directed Be More Chill on Broadway, has also done a phenomenal job. Yeah, we love him.
You just rattled off some of the part of the, you know, the creative team, the crew and everything. Just you know, dote on Olney Theatre for a second, and why that's been such a perfect place, a welcoming place to stage this.
Oh man, well, Jason, the artistic director of the Olney, saw a stage reading of the first act of this, I think in 2017 or 18, and immediately fell in love with it as much as we love it, and has supported us ever since that day. And just his unwavering support and belief in this show is not something you really experience as a creative, especially in the theater. So that it's not lost on us. I feel so grateful for their support and for a chance to make a play right now. I still can't believe it's actually happening. It's thrilling.
Yeah, we're thrilled to be here. And Jason, Lois, and the Olneys, their support has been so meaningful and so great to be supported by someone who really gets the show. You know, as Bekah says, that's not always the case. So I feel like we really hit the jackpot here.
Oh, Olney Theatre, it's second to none. It's the perfect spot for this. And I guess before we run, I guess my listeners would kill me if I at least don't ask about, your both of your famous, credentials here. So I guess Bekah, we'll start with you. This Is Us. It's it's in its final, final season here. But just remind us really quick on your involvement with that, and how is it bittersweet saying goodbye to it?
Well, it is, but I worked on the first 3 seasons. I do not.
So
work
you've already
on it
said
anymore.
goodbye to it.
I remain a loyal fan, though. I watch every week while texting all of the other writers who are still really dear friends of mine. So I'm a fan at this point. So I am sad. I am sad. But I also just worked on Made on Netflix.
Nice.
I was a writer and producer on that show. And then I've also got a musical adaptation of The Notebook with Ingrid Michaelson that's going to be running at Chicago Shakes in the fall.
Nice. So do you actually
There's
have to
plugs.
you have to collaborate with Nicholas Sparks on that, or is it?
We've kind of always, yeah, from the beginning we just kind of like had the rights to the book, and he was kind of like go with God. So we've really made something. You really use the book as a springboard and made something new.
Yeah, Nicholas Sparks says go with God, so you do 80-16 at Olney.
Yes, right. Exactly.
That's Bekah's motto with everything. Go with God.
Yeah, they say go with God, and you say, no, I'll go with the Son of God on this one.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, thanks for that background. And then for you, Cinco, just to round it out, remind us, our listeners, of your background. How the hell did you come up with the idea for Despicable Me? You invented all these characters.
Yeah, well, the grain of the idea came from this Spanish animator named Sergio Pablos, which was like a villain adopts 3 little girls. And so then we took that and ran with it. And, and I don't want to take credit or blame entirely for the minions either, because the director of the movies, really designed those characters. But yeah, that's been sort of a once in a lifetime career experience to have a movie like Despicable Me take off the way it did, and spawn 2 sequels, and so that animation career was such a great part of my life and so much fun. But then it was time to move on, and TV looked so interesting, so that's how Schmigadoon happened, and I'm hoping that we're going to get a season 2, because I would love to make more of that show. We had just such a phenomenal cast, and it was such a great time. And yeah, and so everything I do from now on, I want there to be songs in it. That's my new goal.
Nice. Yeah. And I don't want to say, were you surprised that it was such a hit? Because obviously you make everything hoping that it will connect. But I guess we'll say, were you pleased? Are you proud to see that this german of an idea that you believed in, that so many people connected with Schmigadoon?
Yeah, that's it. Really, and Bekah, I'm sure, feels the same way. The only thing you can do is write the sort of things that you would want to watch yourself, and pray that other people want to watch it as well. And so the whole time we were making the show, I kept thinking, this is crazy. Like, how is Apple letting us make this show? And I think even Apple was surprised by the response. I know they were, because they were not expecting it to be as well received as it was. And I think people sometimes underestimate how appealing musicals are to people. How many people really love musicals and are starved for that sort of content. So it's been a dream come true that we got to make it, and hopefully we'll get to make some more.
I mean, it's a good point, but in so many ways, this past year has proven, at least, I mean, Broadway, it's always been a thing, but at least at the movies, I mean, we've had what, like Cyrano, or Cyrano, I guess you would say,
Yeah.
in the Heights, Encanto, Tick Tick Boom, West Side Story, Annette. There's
Yeah.
so many. Dear Evan Hansen, yeah.
Yeah, best movie of the year, in my opinion, is West Side Story. I just loved it. And yeah, sort of last year was a renaissance of musicals everywhere.
It really was. Well, the Renaissance continues at Olney Theatre.
That's right.
Best segue I can do. With AD 16 running now through March 6th. So get your tickets now. Hey, thank you both so much for joining us. It's a really, really cool idea. So we can't wait to see how it's executed. Pun not intended. I did not even mean that.
Great. Thanks so much for having us, Jason.
Yeah, thank you. Hope to see you there.
All right, sounds good. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for joining us on Beyond the Fame with Jason Fraley. Remember to hit the subscribe button and give us a 5-star rating if you like what you hear. We'll see you next time. I wanted to take a second to tell you about an app I really enjoy. Living in the DC area is great, and Podcast DC gathers all of the local shows that I like all in one local app. Health, sports, local news, politics, and so much more. Podcast DC is the new local app with hundreds of DC area podcasts to choose from. I can earn exciting rewards just for listening and share the podcasts I love instantly. Available in the App Store or in Google Play, listen local with Podcast DC.